Among your many travels, you may have noticed something of marginal interest just outside of the minor Erdtree Church in Altus Plateau, located towards the east. Sat near the base of the great walls surrounding the city of Lyondell, before an unmarked grave, kneels a creature slightly reminiscent of the human form, separated from its group of similar kin. In name, this being is known as a guardian, and is described as a warrior who eternally watches and protects the Erdtree and its offspring. As such, they can most commonly be found in groups surrounding minor Erdtrees, and can vary slightly in appearance, which seems to in part reflect the environments from where they are located. On the backs of those by the caustic swamps of Caelid, for example, and similar to those in the snowy wastelands to the north, grows what appears to be a deadened stump, stunted in growth. While in the more fertile lands of Limgrave and Lyerna, from their backs grows the budding branches of a flowering tree, and finally, those closest in proximity to the Erdtree can be seen with multiple flowers blooming upon their backs. Killing these enemies will sometimes grant parts of their armor, which provides some meager details of their becoming. Engraved golden garb, worn by the guardians of the minor Erdtrees, in accordance with an ancient pact with the Erdtree, it is said that their deaths led not to destruction, but instead to renewed, eternal life as guardians. More rare, though, is the armor of the bloomed guardians, which comes anointed with the same flowers as seen growing on their own backs. This armor raises the HP recovery effects of the Crimson Flask, while lowering fire damage negation, with a further description that states, "It is said that the blood-red flowers blooming on their backs mark the senescence of their ancient pact. Perhaps the guardians are part tree already." From these texts, we can surmise that the guardians may have once lived not as they are now, which came as a result of an oath to the Erdtree, and likely thereby the Golden Order, which the Erdtree stands to represent. With this pact, they were granted the eternal afterlife of watching and protecting the Erdtree along with its offspring, and in this eternity, the very influence which brought their renewal degraded whatever they once were, imparting the tree-like figures we now know to be guardians. But how does this relate to the lonely creature we see knelt before a tombstone? Why would this be here? Why would a guardian feel imposed to act in this way in the first place? The Lands Between exists within a world of contrast. Not even the Golden Order exists without contradiction. The principal tenets of this order, regression and causality, both revolve around notions of convergence and connection, which pulls between meaning and forms the relationships between all things. Opposite of the souls graced by the Erdtree to be one day renewed, exists those who live in death, the blasphemous products of the death root, brought about by the corruption of the Erdtree, defiled from where Godwyn's now deformed corpse remains. In essence, much like the tenets of the Golden Order dictate, the Erdtree acts to represent a pivotal connection between two polar opposites, where one could not have existed without the other. The dichotomy of these two states presents a question which the player is ultimately left to answer during their completion of the game. Where does your value reside? Is it worth maintaining something similar to the Golden Order? What is the point in bringing about the Age of Death? Is there glory in an eternity of guarding that which slowly corrupts? Is there sense in condemning those cursed to neither live or die when they exist as a result of that corrupting power? In seeing our example guardian, I couldn't help but feel that he was in mourning, not for another, but for the loss of himself. I see a person once committed to an infallible system, graced with eternal solidarity in afterlife, bearing witness to his own disfigurement, unable to demise or deter his undoing, being confronted with the remains of once was, and now the prospect of this existence. What is monstrous to a monster? If you've made it this far, thanks. I realize I've probably made a ton of stuff up for the sake of sounding dramatic, but one of my favorite things about this game is how subtle details such as this tend to gleam shreds of humanity, which can be hidden among more grandiose fantasy. It reminds me of how morals exist within fables. I don't claim this to be canon or anything, just my interpretation of something that's probably just meant to be a set piece. In any case, let me know if you have any thoughts or opinions, or if you just want to critique the video, that's fine too. I'm still learning, and I could benefit from any constructive criticism. Take it easy.